And, oh, excuse me, welcome back, everyone, to Who Would Win? Today's Who Would Win comes to us from White Sage, who asked the question, who would win in a fight? Konan from the Akatsuki and Naruto versus Azula, the crown princess of the Fire Nation, formerly the Fire Lord, and yeah, no, she's just a psychopath. I don't know what ultimately was her fate in the series. Like, I know there was extended comics, but I don't know what ultimately became of her after that. Either way, though, Azula is the crown princess of the Fire Nation. She was a prodigy pretty much at birth, being better at Zuko than Zuko at pretty much everything. She was a better hand-to-hand fighter. She was a much more skilled firebender to the point where she could create blue fire, which is much hotter than normal fire, and can use it in tandem. She's skilled enough to be able to actually fly with her firebending. She carries hidden weapons on her, courtesy of learning a trick from Mai. That trick from Mai. She is ruthless, she is cunning, and she is a solid strategist. But she's also not mentally stable. She has a big inferiority complex, or superiority complex, depending on how you look at it. Konan was the BFF was of the BFF3 of the Rain Orphans from the Land of Rain. They were found by a Jiraiya, taught basic ninjutsu to survive, and ultimately formed the Akatsuki for peace, like legitimately peace. Unfortunately, their friend Yaiko was killed outright, and when Danzo screwed over like peace treaties, and then basically was playing both sides of the fence. And then Nagato went full on ham with his Rinnegan and summoned the Ten-Tail statue, which is the hollow out husk of the Ten-Tails. She remained with him, remained loyal to him all throughout the next decade or so, as they reformed the Akatsuki into more of a criminal organization, but still with the pursuit of peace in mind. And was there when he died at the end, when he gave his life to bring people back from Konoha after his invasion. Now, that being said, she ultimately lost her own life to Obito Uchiha when he came for Nagato's Rinnegan. But the thing is, she's actually very powerful in her own way. Now, her ninjutsu revolves around the manipulation of paper, of all things. Now, it's not really known if this is a Kekkei Genkai, or if it's just a... Because for example, the Shadow Possession Jutsu is not a Kekkei Genkai, but is a clan-specific technique specific to the Nara clan. Same with, Abarame's ability to control insects. So forth and so on. That's what I was trying to say. For whatever reason, she is able to literally turn her body into paper. She's able to manipulate paper through origami, through chakra, able to create things like butterflies, gather information, blades for attacking, harden her paper with chakra to make materials like spears, shurikens, chakram-like weapons. She can restrain opponents by blanketing them in paper and asphyxiating them. She can suffocate them. She can make paper clones to fight in battle. She can even hide explosive tags within them to catch people off guard. She can make wings to fly. Despite being made of paper, her fire release barely damaged her when she was hit by it. She can even overpower the same technique with her paper. Her paper seemed unaffected by water, as seen during her fight with Toby in the rain. The only thing that really seemed to trip up her paper was oil, because oil's got a different viscosity to it. She was able to produce enough folds of paper to mimic an environmental surrounding when she basically created a giant tree for Nagato's base of operations, and was able to disguise her paper as the lake of the Land of Rain. When she opened, she sensed her opponent falling into an abyss of 600 billion explosive tags. The technique forced Toby to use Izanagi, of all things, to save himself. She's been around the block for over a decade as a ninja. She is skilled in ninjutsu and is very intelligent. It's keen at strategy, and she has to be merciless. So we also have to assume she has a pretty solid chakra reserve. She's the only female member of the Akatsuki. Her only real true battle is against Obito. But the fact is, she went toe-to-toe, and if he did not have Izanagi, she would have outright killed his ass. Because she even figured out how his Kamui worked. Think about that. That's how smart she is. So these two meet in combat. Let's assume Konan survives, is living her best life, whatever, or has found a village on the coast somewhere to protect, and the Fire Nation come in. Azula's there. This village is this land will be controlled by the Fire Nation itself. Konan just steps out. I will not. You've made a mistake coming here. Leave now before you get hurt. I don't think so. And the fight would begin. Now, we don't know how good Konan is in, like, hand-to-hand combat. We assume she probably can hold her own, but that's not her fighting style anyway. So in a straight hand-to-hand fight, yeah, like, she'd lose. But that's assuming a straight hand-to-hands with no other, like, available abilities. The problem Azula automatically faces is her paper can resist fire release. Now, granted, her fire is hotter than standard fire release, sure, but it can still be somewhat damaged, but quite frankly, she can overwhelm most fire release. And her fire, unless it's the Day of Black Sun with Sozin's Comet, her fire is nothing in terms of the sheer amount produced by ninjutsu. Like, she can do very powerful blasts, absolutely, but it's really not that impressive. Now, what she can use, however, that we don't know if Konan can counter, is lightning. She can, in fact, create lightning. And lightning is arguably even worse to deal with than fire. It's because it affects our nervous system due to electricity, and is by all accounts hotter than fire in many ways. As Iroh put it, a lightning is known as the cold flame. It's just a different type of energy. But unfortunately, unlike other lightning releases could just be zap, she does need to move in a certain pattern to use lightning release. And unfortunately, that makes her a very easy target. And I love the fact that, movements can be read. So the minute she tries to attack, Konan, who most likely has a light speed-esque reflexes, as most minor Naruto characters have reflexes in that area. Just look at the Haku fight for that. And she's way above those characters in terms of power back then. That's a good question. You think Kakashi could have taken any of the Akatsuki on back when we first met him in the series where he was arguably at his weakest? Who knows? I'd imagine Konan would still probably he could still probably take. But yeah, her wing maybe gets clipped, but she can just fly. She's throwing bladed pieces of paper at Azula. And Azula probably has too much hubris to realize initially that her fire isn't going to roast these blades. So when she tries to roast these blades coming through to her or coming at her, like they maybe get slightly singed, and then she realizes what, and then just has to avoid it. Maybe gets hit in her armor a couple of times. Her armor could probably take a hit or two, but eventually that thing's going to crack. As the fight drags on, Azula is just going to become more and more unhinged. That's really her hubris here. If she, say, got in close for Konan and then did like a point-blank fire blast, that might do more damage, because the more distance she gets, the more the fire loses its power, oxygen, its heat. And so, yeah, if she were to, say, do a point-blank shot on Konan, she might be able to really hurt her. The problem is I just don't see that happening, as Conan's a long-range fighter. And add on the fact that she's probably throwing paper bombs in there too. Azula, unfortunately, is just going to really get wrecked in this fight. Now, actually, I thought it was going to be closer, which is why I didn't put it as a speed round. But yeah, as it turns out, Konan would probably wreck Azula's shit. Now, let's be fair to Azula for a second. Day of Black Sun. If we're doing Sozin's Comet Azula, where all firebenders have their firebending, upped immensely, could she pose a bigger threat? And the answer to that is yes. I mean, it's got to be yes, she could pose a bigger threat. But the question then becomes, could she beat her? The amount of fire she can produce is insane, and she still uses blue flames, which is hotter than normal fire. And benders do not have the same hindrance that, say, ninjas do when it comes to using elemental abilities. Ninjas have to use chakra, and eventually they do run out of chakra. Whereas benders, as long as their chakras aren't blocked, there's really, and I mean, yeah, they got physical limitations. You can only, keep thrusting like so much. They're like, but their bending comes from their breath more than anything else. As long as they can breathe, they should be able to keep bending, even through exhaustion. Hell, Iroh can literally spit flames. So even if he's just like, I can't move my arms anymore, don't worry, I have one more idea. There's a reason they call me the Dragon of the West. Like, in theory, you can keep bending indefinitely. So she does have a, let's call it a type of stamina advantage. It's not a straight stamina advantage, but it is a type of stamina advantage. That said, I still don't see her beating Konan overall. Yeah, her fire would be intense, and she'd be able to just continually just, which would be something that Konan would not be able to handle indefinitely. But again, Konan is also a very skilled strategist in her own right. Instead of being like outright attacking, she can easily just subtly just throw birds or butterfly, something to be subtle, and then explode, boom, boom, blow up right behind her or in front of her or whatever. And she's still a ninja. She still knows basic ninjutsu, like the clone jutsu, no doubt, substitution jutsu. We know she knows paper clones. So she can easily probably get herself out of a sticky spot when it comes to being, almost incinerated. And any weapon that Azula carries on her, too, isn't really going to amount to much here. So, yeah, Konan would take this without really much debate, I think. I'm not saying Azula is completely helpless. And again, if we're going Sozin's Comet Azula, she would certainly be a bigger threat. Problem is, we can either go Sozin's Comet where she is sane, that'd be the most dangerous version of her, or the unhinged version, which is more easily beatable because she's just completely insane at that point. Either way, I do still think Konan would take the majority of the wins. This is just my opinion, though. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.